You're listening to the Business Mike podcast. Amazing interviews with entrepreneurs and industry thought leaders.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Business Mike podcast. And joining me today is Greg. Greg, happy to have you on the show. Can you let the listeners and viewers know a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Thank you very much, Dowdy, for inviting me to your podcast. It's a pleasure to join. My name is Gregorio Uglioni, coming from Switzerland with a clear Italian accent. That's my mother tongue, but I am quite sure we will understand each other. From my background, extremely passionate about customer experience, leadership, and business transformation. That's what I'm doing in my corporate job. I am working for an hospital in Switzerland, one of the 10 biggest hospitals, and I am responsible for the digital and business transformation in the hospital. In my spare time, I am also working with this topic. I have a podcast, the Customer Experience Goals with the CX Goalkeeper. That's a podcast I am publishing regularly. I am writing books about this topic. I am in a lot of discussion, and I really like to share what I am learning on my corporate job and what I learned from a lot of interviews that I did in the past. And the last piece of my story is my family. I have a small son living in Zurich, Switzerland, and they are my energy, giving me energy to do everything what I'm doing.
All right. Well, I'm glad to have you on the show. And as you had intimated there, the purpose of having you on this episode is to talk to a fellow podcaster that interviews CX professionals and try and see what themes come along the way in our discussions. And if there are any lessons to learn or threads to pull from, perhaps we can share that with the audience as we wrap up 2023. And I wanted to kick us off by asking you if there are any common themes, because you have CX professionals, but they work in different fields, different aspects. Are there any common themes that this year, 2023, has pulled out and demonstrated itself in our particular industry? Anything that comes to mind from your guests and conversations?
Yes, sure. I think there is one topic that it's really important for me, for you, and for your audience. I am doing a lot of podcasts. We are discussing about different topics. It can be customer journey management. It can be change management. It can be agility. It can be return on investment. But what it always pop out is we can produce a lot of PowerPoint slides. We can create a lot of Miro boards with the best possible customer journeys, or we can buy tools to map customer journey, to do customer journey orchestration and so on. But our customers, they can be our employees or our end customer in a B2B or B2B world. They will feel what we are doing and what we are discussing only if we implement what we are discussing. And I am really from the opinion that we are discussing a lot, perhaps too much, and we are not doing enough. And therefore, what it's come out, it's really, we need to deliver. Now it's time to deliver. We discussed a lot in 2023 and in the previous year, and now in 2024, I really would like to ask all your audience, let's start doing CX in the right way to bring value to the customer, to bring value to the employees, and to bring value to the business. And there are a lot of topics that we are discussing will not be relevant anymore, but we are really doing what we are preaching. And I think that's the key learning from all the discussion that I had and what a lot of people, they discussed. We can do everything. Let's work throughout finding and creating value for the customer, for the employees, for the human beings, and at the end for the business.
Right. I think that's a very good point. And what I pick from it is to basically to take action instead of just discussing what we can do, what we should do. Let's take action in 2024 and leave the boardroom presentations and magic in there, and then just help the customers, both internal and external. That's a very good takeaway. Nick, go ahead, please.
Dowdy, what you are saying is I'm very passionate about soccer or football. And
yeah,
if
me
you
too.
Are,
yeah.
If you are in the dress room and you're discussing how to score goals, you can depict everything on the table and say, I pass that to you, I pass that to them. But then when you are on the field, the customer, the fans are looking at you. You need to score goals in this point. You need to win the game, to lead the game, and score these goals. And I think this is really key. You said that with the boardrooms. I use this example. What it's on paper, it's nice and good, but at the end, what really counts is scoring the goals when you are on the field, when your customers are seeing you and are feeling what you're doing.
Yeah, but I like what you've just said. And from the sports perspective, not just soccer, it's the equivalent of watching videos of the greatest teams and the tactics. That's all good on paper, but you have to go out and produce it. It's not enough to watch in amazement how fantastic your player will come together and all that without necessarily putting it in practice on the field. That's a very good point.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, the other question I wanted to ask you that might have emerged from your conversations with different guests is, are there any emerging trends that are unique to 2023 that perhaps weren't necessarily there in 2022? I know for a fact AI is one of them. This year it's bigger than it was last year, although not so many companies have embraced it and implemented it within their organizations in an effective way. It's more of what we had just said earlier on, studying and learning how to bring this AI into our CX and making the most of it. But are there any others that you've seen? Or if it's AI, how has it emerged in this particular year?
I think everybody is and was speaking about artificial intelligence, large language model, and everything that these great tools, this great technology can do for us. And I think to add value to the discussion and not discussing about what are the possible use cases. One point that you mentioned is key. I think we have this technology available and we should use for the right purpose. Let's define for which use case we want to implement that and find out which is the technology that we can leverage, the artificial intelligence that we can leverage to deliver this purpose. It's automation, it's enhancing customer service employees, it's creating better dashboard for creating understanding for the top management. I think this is one key topic. But what you said, and not to speak always only about artificial intelligence, I think the key topic is how can we ensure to leverage this technology to augment the opportunities that we have as human beings. And there are a lot of reports about, for example, loneliness. How can we ensure and manage and balance technology with the human beings having interaction? Because what I really like from this discussion is you, Dowding, asking me question and empathizing and giving me answer. Think about having this podcast and a robot ask the questions. That's not such a good feeling. And also our customer, perhaps they don't have the right feeling when they are discussing with a machine. Yes, we can use machine for certain tasks to simplify, to automate. But at the end, what's really counts is the human centricity. How can we focus, empathize, discuss? I really like this discussion. We had a short pre-discussion, but I already said we are in sync. We are discussing and speaking about the same topic. And that's the same for our customer, employees, or the end customer buying our products or our services. How can we augment humans and ensure that humans can have discussion and collaboration together and find this way to work together? There is one report that was published a few months ago in America. It was the loneliness report. People are feeling lonely because they are at home. They are always playing with their phone and so on. We need this interaction. And let's find ways how we can leverage AI to do certain tasks and empower employees, human beings to discuss together.
Right. You raise a very good point about the loneliness, because that comes from the technology as well. So it is using the technology for good because it can do two things. Just like fire, when you have fire, it can either burn your house or it can warm you and cook you a meal. So it's all about perspective.
Exactly. And I think this is the important thing. How we can leverage these great technologies to do the right things. And at the end, we are human beings. We need to socialize, to be together. And let's ensure that we have this opportunity, in particular, if a customer wants to talk with somebody.
Right. Greg, I have to ask you, during this period in time, is there anything that has happened to you that you've seen that has maybe changed your view or the shape of your perception on customer experience. Is there anything a guest said or something that happened personally to you throughout this year that maybe had an impact on your perception on customer experience?
Sure. And this is a bit more a personal story. Perhaps from my background, I worked with a big consulting company, Accenture. Then I moved in the financial services, and now I'm working in the healthcare industry. And taking one example from the financial service industry, I start working in operations to be understood as all the departments having contact with the customers. And you came in a young boy, you want to create the best strategy, let's discuss, and we go there and that. And then the head of our contact center came to me and said, okay, now you come together with me and you sit one day next to a contact center agent and you see and you feel what they are doing the whole day. It completely changed my life, because you can discuss all the best strategies, all the best ideas and so on, and all this technology that are available. But I think it's really key for me was to really feel what these contact center agents are doing and what are their pain points, what are their dreams, what they want to achieve, what are their ambitions. Because one side is to create this digital strategy, but on the other side, it's what we can do for the human being sitting there, how we can empower him, help him, and bring him forward in his life and in his context. And the same I had the opportunity to do in the hospital I'm working. I was allowed to do shadowing of nurses and physicians. And this is incredible. The passion that nurses and physicians have for what they are doing, how much time they are investing to speak and to empathize together with the patient, to understand and find out some nuances of what they are saying in order to find out the best possible diagnosis and to find out what should be done. And I think this is really key, being together with the people we are working for, because I am responsible for the business transformation. I work for the employees that are delivering these experiences to the patients, and the same was in the financial service. And I think for me was really mind-blowing, mind-changing, having this opportunity, and also being a senior leader in my company. I am doing that regularly because I want to get this feeling. What's happening really outside in the real world?
Yeah, I like what you said there, and it relates so much to empathy. I was in a meeting one time where someone gave a personal story about an employee they had who was normally a good performer, but for some reason there was a tight deadline and they didn't do well and they missed the deadline. So this boss confronted that staff only to find out that she was going through a divorce. So he didn't have the training on how to deal with that particular scenario. And rarely do we have a training that can simulate a situation where you need to be empathetic. So when you talk about a hospital, there's so many scenarios there whereby, you have to demonstrate empathy. And sometimes it isn't something you can read in a textbook. It has to come from within. So that is something very, very important that I think we as people in customer experience need to embrace and take very seriously.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. The other question I wanted to ask you was whether or not there are any strategies that you've seen in blogs, articles, or maybe through your guests that have maybe specific approaches, ideally, that seem to be gaining traction in terms of optimizing our customer experience. Are there any frameworks, methodologies, or approaches that you've seen that are unique, that stand out for you this particular year?
Yes, it was not this particular year, but it's something that I learned a few years ago, and I find out that it can be applied in different industry. And there are a lot of methodologies, and I'm not coming with the latest journey mapping tool or the latest journey orchestration tool, but it's something that from my point of view is real. Bill Price was the first VP of customer service at Amazon, and he defined the value irritant matrix. It's a simple matrix where you try to understand for each process, does this process bring value to the company or is it irritating for the company? And the same for the customer. Does it bring value for the customer or is it irritating? And if you have a look at this matrix, if it's irritating for the customer and is irritating for the company, then let's eliminate this process. There is no value added. Find the root cause and eliminate these processes because they don't bring value. If it brings value to the company, but it's irritating for the customer, and we are often speaking about all these compliance tasks. I need to confirm, for example, that you are still living where you are living, or I need a confirmation that your mobile phone number is still the same. We need to, as a company, we need to extremely simplify this process because it's bringing value to me as a company, but not to you as a customer. And therefore, we need to simplify as much as possible. If it's bringing value to the customer, but it's irritating for the company, and these are all these repetitive tasks, automation. For example, if you're speaking in a credit card company, I need a new personal identification number, so this secret code for my credit card. That should be automated. The customer should click somewhere and get this number, and then it adds value because it can use again the card. And these are three box of this matrix. And the last one is, if it's bringing value to the customer and it's bringing value to the company, let's invest, let's augment it. And there, it's not about discussing how we can automate this interaction or what we can do, but it's about how can we create value and bring value. There, for example, speaking in a contact center field, perhaps it's not about anymore about average handling time or speed of answer, but it's about how we can create a human connection so that a human from the company can add value to a human, the customer. And this is not average handling time or a call, but it's the experience time between customer and employee. And there, let's find a way to create value for the company, for example, creating a cross-sell, upsell, or something like that, and for the customer to get the benefits that he really needs.
Right. There's a question you normally ask on your podcast that I would like to pose to you as well, and that is what CX would look like 10 years from now. In your opinion, what are we looking at? If we're having this discussion 10 years from now, what does that look like?
I want to be honest. I'm working in a corporate, and I'm seeing how we are struggling with all this focus on human being and customer experience. Still working in an hospital, and really a great hospital. Every employee, every physician, every nurse is extremely focused on the human being and creating value for the patient. However, I think we are discussing a lot and we are not delivering enough. Not as an hospital, but let's say us, customer experience community, as digital transformator, as business transformator. I think we will still have same discussion, very similar, how we can put the human at the center of what we are doing, how we can use these amazing technologies that will be there in 10 years from now to create value for the customer, for the human beings. And therefore, I think it will be quite similar discussion, but with a lot of new companies raising up and created from the scratch, offering great experience to their customer, and therefore for the, let's say, old-fashioned companies not focusing on human centricity, they will have much more problems and perhaps will not be there anymore.
Right. Well, as someone who loves football so much, I mean, your podcast is called the CX Goalkeeper. So what team do you support? I've never actually found out.
It's you can check the colors. It's red and black. It's AC Milan in Italy.
Right. Now, the follow-up question I wanted to ask is, would you consider yourself a customer of that brand? And if so, what sort of customer experience do they give you as a fan of the club?
That's the great question. I'm not a customer. I am a fan. It means I'm emotionally involved. Think about that. If they lose a match, I find excuses and say it was the referee or it was the other team. And therefore, even if I had a bad experience, I am supporting them. I am spreading positive word of mouth. And please don't tell that to my wife, but I'm still spending a lot of money to buy merchandise, to buy tickets, and so on. And therefore, let's think, if companies could create a way of creating fans as customer, how would business look like? Because I think this is extremely important. Emotionally involved, I am spending money, and I spread positive word of mouth.
Yeah, I love what you said there. And I think there's a lot to learn from sports franchises in as far as customer experience is concerned, because even when they let their fans down, the fans know that they have them at their heart, their best interests at heart. And so they continue supporting them throughout. And when they don't do well, the fans are quick to let them know, we're not happy about this. They do that through protests and all that kinds of methods, which I think we as businesses need to embrace. They are lucky in the sense that they get this feedback directly. They'll boo you during the match and immediately you know that something isn't right. So that feedback helps you know where to work on areas of improvement. And I think there's a lot to learn from sports in business. Yeah.
Yes, and I can say you listen carefully to what I was discussing, because that's one of the great examples from sport, the direct, unfiltered feedback. Think about, again, if you are writing a letter to a customer, that the customer is next to you and saying, yes, that's good, you are writing in the right way. Or saying, are you sure you want to tell me that? And I think this could really help us shaping new way of thinking. And I know in sport, it's not everything perfect. I am covering only the positive side because I wanted to bring some positive example and some new way of thinking what we can do in business to create this, as Shep Icon would say, amazing experiences for our customers.
Right. Well, Greg, that brings us to the end of the interview. And I want to thank you so much for coming onto the show. But before we let you go, how can people learn more about yourself? Where can they find your podcast and subscribe? Where can they get in touch with you? How can we find you on the internet?
Thank you very much for this question. The best way is LinkedIn. Contact me over LinkedIn. I am every day in LinkedIn. I like to continue the discussion with you and to discuss with the CX community, with the business transformation community. It's a great community. Thank you very much also to you for what you are doing, sharing this knowledge, sharing this discussion. And if somebody is interested, cxgoalkeeper.com/podcast, you can find all the links to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, my YouTube channel. Super happy to get your feedback and to kick off a great discussion. And perhaps we can score some great goals together.
Well, thank you so much, Greg. I wish you the very best. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year to you and to all the audience.